Amy and I are now joined by Maya Bloomberg, family nurse practitioner, the Heme NP. Maya, thanks for joining us here on BloodStream. Welcome. How are you today?
Doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. Amy and I have been a fan of your content, so let's jump right in. What inspired you to start the Heme NP Instagram account?
Thinking back, it's been almost 2 years now, and it really started in the peak of the pandemic. There was so much misinformation out there, and I'm a huge nerd, and I was just trying to think of creative ways to use my expertise to help fight that misinformation. And, I went to art school for 8 years, so I'm always super creative, and it was honestly just the most beautiful marriage of my creativity with my book smart and being able to create content to just create easy, digestible information to allow patients to really just feel empowered to take charge of their health and have the right information to do so.
And you're specialized in non-malignant hematology. You just mentioned art school too. So how did you get interested in healthcare and specifically non-malignant hematology?
So I really fell into hematology when I was a bedside nurse and a charge nurse. You would see a lot of different types of providers, but you would see the good ones, but you would also see the providers who really just treated patients like numbers. So when I became a nurse practitioner, I didn't really care about the specialty I went in because I'm the type of person, when I put my heart to it, I'm always going to succeed. And I cared more about the provider I was working with. And I had a few offers in a primary care provider and infectious disease, but I could just tell by that connection I would probably have gotten a little resentful. And then lo and behold, Dr. Harrington comes around and we're talking about his practice and his specialty. And he's literally just going one by one about his patients and giving me a thorough history. And I'm like, this is my guy. Like, you can tell that he truly cares about his patients. So I really fell into hematology, but now kind of seeing where my career has taken me and the advocacy and whatnot I've been able to accomplish, I really do feel like it was some divine intervention. And this was part of my life purpose to really fall into hematology.
Wow, that's powerful. So you started this Instagram account about 2 years ago. You said during the pandemic. Was there anything in particular about the pandemic that inspired this account?
It's more that a lot of my patients would always say to me that, oh, I read this on Facebook, oh, I read this online, and they would trust the information they're reading online as a reason to not get vaccinated. And we just have so much information, especially for the population of patients I take care of, especially those living with sickle cell disease. We knew the outcomes of getting COVID with sickle cell is much worse than compared to the general population. And we have heaping evidence that the vaccine, it's safe, it's effective, and it helps prevent death. So when I was having patients trust what they're reading online more than what their providers were saying, I knew it wasn't just exclusive to them. This is probably a general problem, and it's really what motivated me to kind of go in that arena.
Maya, are there other clinicians online that are doing the same thing as you are? Is it kind of a dry field? You don't hear of a clinician or a nurse practitioner, who has Instagram savvy. What has that been like? Can you push through the noise, or what has that been like?
So it was definitely a learning curve. I think there's a lot of other medical providers. We're called medfluencers, which I'm an advocate, but they call us medfluencers. And there's a bunch of providers, but what I found was a little differentiating for my page versus the other providers' pages is a lot of my information is just directly geared to empower patients. Yes, if healthcare providers read my information, they'll learn a lot and whatnot, but I really just wanted to simplify hematology because hematology can be so intimidating, and it really is a complex field. And I feel like I just have a knack for simplifying it to the point where you can take the information and actually translate it into your life and clinical practice. But there are a lot of providers who are doing it. There are a few in the hematology field specifically, but I've seen it across the board in pulmonology and eye specialists, lung specialists, et cetera.
You mentioned having a knack for being able to simplify the information for the purposes of a post. I'm curious how you determine what you want to post about, what topic, how does that come about? What's your process?
It's so random. Honestly, one day I'll be going to sleep, and I swear it's when I'm going to bed is when all of my ideas kind of flood in. So if I'll get an idea, I write it down on my nightstand and that'll prompt it. Otherwise, it's really, I try to post things that aren't talked about often. So recently I posted on sexual health because at the end of the day, when we're talking about patient care, it involves the mind, body, soul, etc. But you can only fit in so much information into one clinic visit. So I try to think of topics that should be discussed but often aren't because we might not have the time constraints and whatnot. I'll also choose topics that just are frequent conversations that I'm having in clinic with patients that I want to just spell out into the world. When it comes to hemophilia or sickle cell, there's a shortage of providers that really are specialized in that area. So I feel like just the small details, even just as much as family planning or what it means when you're getting pregnant, or if you want to become pregnant, I try to think of what those hot topics are that I get asked often in clinic and kind of translate that into my posts.
Maya, we get asked this all the time, knowing that there's, misinformation out there, knowing that patients are still going to be out there and wanting to celebrate that. I mean, it is such an isolating thing having a rare condition. And so, these online spaces have just been wonderful for patients, for caregivers to connect. But there's always this like gray area of like, what's everybody saying on there? And as a clinician, like, how do we quote unquote police that in some way? What are your kind of tips and tricks for patients and caregivers navigating the online space? Hearing something online, we all know, I mean, I do makeup tutorials online to, one of those things like, and I'm sure patients kind of hear tips and tricks online as well. How do you navigate that? How do you talk to your patients about that?
So I have patients all the time, they'll bring me information like, hey, I saw this online, what do you think about it? Because I think as soon as you plant a seed of doubt and let patients realize you can Google anything and you can find one sentence that fits a piece of your narrative and creates this whole story that really skews the information. So I think it's just important for patients to not trust everything and to really be their own detectives. If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And hopefully you have a good relationship with your provider that if you find something, I love when my patients use it as a way to spark more meaningful conversation. And it's not like they're saying, hey, look what I saw, this is what I believe. It's more like, hey, look what I saw, what do you think? And kind of breaking down the information together.
Maya, your account has over 11,000 followers. Each of your posts gets significant amount of engagement. I'm curious, what has surprised you about the response to your account since you first started it?
I think what surprised me most is in the beginning, I went in like so eager. I'm like, yeah, everyone's going to love me and who wouldn't want to follow me? And it was the complete opposite. And it was almost when I stopped thinking about what others would like more and just started doing what I was passionate about. But the bigger purpose of my account is really to help empower patients to live their best lives and be their biggest advocates. And when I focus on that and that passion, I feel like everything else kind of trickles. So I think it was surprising to me that just when I stopped caring about the followers and the likes, when I ended up being more successful.
That's a great story. It's a great testament to making sure that you're focusing on the thing that is most important and trusting that the rest will come.
And the other thing, just one piece real fast, is just the Instagram. It gives you the ability to connect to people all over the world. And for the different disease states, like with sickle cell, we know that it's a huge health and racial disparity in the United States, but through connecting to people globally, you realize that every single warrior is having the same exact battle. And even in the areas with the highest prevalence, it's almost worse in Africa, which has the highest rates, and they don't even have basic access to newborn screening and to life-saving treatments. And for hemophilia, for example, when you think about access, and I'm connecting to people in India or other people who reach out to me like, hey, I just started on this clinical trial. It's been really exciting to just engage and connect to people all over the world and kind of hear how the standard of care and different treatments vary as well.
It's also been exciting for us to connect with you and to start talking with you about how we may work together through BloodStream in the future. And I know we're still hashing out details, fine-tuning some things, but if you would, Maya, I'd love for you to just share a little bit about what listeners can expect to hear from you here on BloodStream in the coming months.
So I think we've already dived in and spoke how I'm very good at simplifying things and making it easy to understand. So this new project that we're going to be doing is going to be short tidbits of information, easy to digest on various topics that cover anything in non-malignant or benign, or more recently, we now call it classical hematology. And that covers hemoglobinopathies, which sickle cell and thalassemia falls under. It covers bleeding disorders like hemophilia and von Willebrand disease, covers iron overload, it covers clotting disorders, platelets, etc. So we have so many different things that we can talk about, and the goal is to kind of just break it down in short, digestible videos. So again, you can take this information and just be able to live your best life.
That's fantastic, Maya. Well, thank you for everything that you do for the community, and thank you for the willingness to partner with us on BloodStream. And I'm excited to see what we're going to be able to do together here in the coming months. And thanks again for today and having our listeners get to know a little bit more about you and your story. I imagine we'll have you back on down the road to hear how this project we're doing together has gone, what else you're learning, and as we continue to see advances in treatment and care and hemophilia and in sickle cell and so forth, to check in with you about what are you noticing or what gaps are still exist. I think this will be a fun ongoing dialogue for Amy and I to be in with you, and the listeners will benefit from that. So thank you, and we will talk to you again very soon.
I'm just as excited. Thanks so much for having me.